So Bernie Sanders was recently asked about his view on how Russia meddled with the 2016 election. So I want to show you guys this video and then we'll talk about it. Let's take a look.
The intelligence community all agree that Russia tampered with the 2016 election and used information warfare to sow further division and mistrust among Americans. It's likely that they will interfere with the 2020 election as well. So as a candidate, how will you ensure your campaign will not be infiltrated by Russia? And secondly, as president, how will you eliminate this threat once and for all to restore confidence to our electoral process?
Thank you very much for that question. Unlike Donald Trump, I have no doubt that what you said is true. And clearly, we have got to make it clear to Russia that they cannot sabotage elections, not only in the United States, by the way, but in countries around the world. Specifically, we are, and I know other campaigns are doing it as well, hiring, spending a lot of money, trying to protect our computers, etc. But ultimately, the word has got to go out to Putin and others around the world that cyber warfare, the attempt to destroy American democracy, is a very, very serious offense which will not be taken lightly.
So that was kind of a weak answer, I'm going to be honest. I am a huge fan of Bernie Sanders, but I know he could have done way better than that. He was pretty unprepared for this question, and kind of rightfully so. So let me first explain why it's a weak answer, and then let me explain as to what's missing here. So it's a weak answer because the question was, how will you ensure your campaign isn't infiltrated by Russia? And his response was, quote, the word has to get out. Russia's going to face some very serious consequences, right? So what he's basically saying is that we're going to do something about it. That's what we're going to do. But the question was not, are you going to ensure your campaign isn't infiltrated by Russia? Are you going to do something about it if they do? The question was, how will you ensure your campaign isn't infiltrated by Russia? And he didn't answer that question. I feel like he was slightly unprepared for it because of that, because of his response at least. Now let's talk about what did Russia do? Because when you watch corporate media and you watch other media outlets, in fact, people try to muddy the waters and people don't really understand exactly what happened. So first off, Russia's intentions was to get Trump elected. Like, we need to be 100% clear about that. So they did that by doing two things. Three things. The first thing they did is they tried to divide Democrats between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. And so they would run smear campaigns against Bernie Sanders, but they would also run smear campaigns against Hillary Clinton. It really depended on their goal to try to cut the Democratic vote in half. And so people lost a lot of faith in the Democrats that were currently being elected during the primaries. And so Hillary Clinton ended up winning, and there is a decent chance that Russia had a lot to do with why Bernie Sanders was not elected. Now, many of you guys understand that that wasn't the main reason. The main reason why Bernie Sanders didn't win was because of the superdelegates. But yeah, Russia had a lot to do with this. The DNC had more to do with it, but Russia had a lot to do with it. Now let's talk about what Russia did with Trump. Russia would do two things. They would, with Trump at least, they would promote him with certain ads. It's like free ads for Donald Trump, but they would also run fake news on various social media platforms. So they would spend millions and millions of dollars to try to promote Donald Trump. Now, why is that? Well, there's a really good chance that they made some that Russia made political calculations and assumed that if Donald Trump went into office, that Russia would not be sanctioned for the things that they're doing in various countries. Keep in mind, you guys are very familiar with the proxy wars that are going on in the Middle East. Right now, we have basically Saudi Arabia and Iran that are at war with each other, but they're at war in different ways. They have proxy wars, and you have all sorts of different proxy wars throughout the Middle East, and Russia is supporting a lot of regime change in the Middle East, including, for example, Bashar al-Assad. If you're familiar with that, that's someone who was instated by the Russians. So that's a Russian dictatorship, if you will. The U.S. doesn't support that dictatorship. Even though they support 73% of the dictatorships, the U.S. doesn't support that dictatorship because it's a Russia-instated dictatorship, and Russia is economically benefiting from Bashar al-Assad being the dictator of Syria. And so you have to understand that Russia is trying to intervene in the Middle East, and because of that, the U.S. is sanctioning them. And so Russia doesn't like being sanctioned. That hurts them economically. And so what they do is they try to meddle with certain elections so that because certain candidates don't want to sanction Russia. Now, why wouldn't someone want to sanction Russia? I'm not quite sure about that, to be honest. And in my opinion, there might have something to do with how Trump had the dealings with the Moscow Tower. There are a bunch of other reasons, possibly. Maybe the Russians have some dirt on Trump. I don't know. But Donald Trump did not sanction Russia. And because of that, because Donald Trump did not want to sanction Russia, Russia benefited Trump during the 2016 campaign by running a bunch of fake news about Donald Trump and about Hillary Clinton. And it benefited Donald Trump every single time. And so we know for certain that Russia involved themselves in our democracy to elect Donald Trump. And so if I'm Bernie Sanders, this is what I would say. I would say that Congress has allocated millions of dollars. I don't know, maybe it's not Congress, maybe it's some other, I think it's Congress. They've allocated millions of dollars to prevent the Russians and any other intelligence or any other country from advertising in the U.S. with political ads, and that there are certain laws and policies that have been passed to protect our American democracy. So if you go on, for example, Facebook, in 2016, you could make a political ad about Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. It didn't matter whether or not it didn't matter who you were, really. You could be a Russian and do this. And that was severely a problem because that's how Russia infiltrated. They used Facebook and Twitter and so on. Now, in 2020, if you want to make a political ad, and I challenge you to do this, try to make an ad for Bernie Sanders. I've actually tried. I've tried running some ads for Bernie Sanders that promote Bernie Sanders. I got denied because I actually needed a certificate. And so you have to understand the policies are different now. But Donald Trump has not emphasized any of these policies, likely because he wants to benefit from Russia infiltrating the U.S. democracy. He benefits from Russia. And so he's not going to say anything, and you haven't heard a word about how Russia has meddled in the 2016 election from Donald Trump. That's a huge problem, guys. And so what I wanted Bernie Sanders to say is, listen, if they do this and I'm president, I'm going to sanction them. I'm going to sanction them. But he didn't say that. Like, that's how you threaten the government. You say, I am going to prevent Russia from doing this by suggesting that if they do, they're going to be sanctioned. Donald Trump should come alongside that because we live in American democracy, I hope, and you should promote an American democracy. And I would hope that Donald Trump would say, yes, if they infiltrate our election, we need to sanction them. And so I would think that if Bernie Sanders was going to play a good move, he would say, I tell you what, Donald Trump needs to sign a thing that says that if, regardless of who wins this election, we need to sanction him, or Russia specifically, Vladimir Putin, for infiltrating the 2020 election. That needs to be something that absolutely happens. But guys, 2016, when Donald Trump was elected, he didn't sanction Russia. He literally waited almost half a year or something like that to put the first sanction on Russia. And Congress was like, and it was a big deal at the time. Congress was like, we need to sanction them. We need to sanction them. We need to sanction them. And Donald Trump does not sanction them. And it's like, something's off here. Why are you not sanctioning Russia? What's your excuse, Donald Trump? You should want to sanction Russia. But Donald Trump's sitting there overthinking, yeah, you know what? I actually like the Russians meddling with this election because I'm not going to sanction them. They're going to help me. And guys, people can do this with any country. Any country that's currently being sanctioned right now, you can, as a political candidate, say like, I don't think we should sanction this country. And they're going to probably want to run ads for you. They're probably going to be like, hey, we would economically benefit from this person being elected. Like that should be unconstitutional. That doesn't make any sense why people can do that. And Donald Trump did that in the 2016 election. He has not said a word about it. And Bernie Sanders made it very clear. This is already happening in 2020. Yes, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all these social media platforms have implemented certification programs or whatever to prove that you're a U.S. citizen to run ads. But still, we're talking like the internet's a big thing. I know if you do it on Twitter, Facebook, and all these different large social media platforms, that's great, but that's only like probably 50% of social media. I would say the other 50% is probably unguarded. These people who make social media platforms, they're not familiar with the fact that Russia meddles in the election, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to accept that money because it's money and it's ads. So, we need to clarify what the law is, and we need to threaten Russia and any other country who wants to meddle with that election with sanctions. That's the simple solution. And I don't understand why Bernie Sanders hesitated on talking about sanctions. Maybe you guys understand. Maybe I'm just, out of the loop or something like that. So leave a comment if you know why he's doing this, because I'm not sure. But it seemed like a really weak answer, to be honest. The word has to go out. This is very serious.